In the main thing that will be happening is that camp will be largely focused outdoors rather than indoors. We know that in the outdoor arena, COVID is less likely to spread. In that space, kids are also able to not wear masks when they're outdoors, though they will be asked to mask when they're indoors at all time. And then the camp staff will be wearing masks at all times. The JCC always will encourage frequent hand washing, respiratory etiquette in terms of coughing into your elbow, not coming to camp if you're ill, as well as testing for anyone who's symptomatic. Really important that anybody who's able to be vaccinated should be vaccinated. In a community with a large number of vaccinations, you have less risk to those who are unvaccinated or the kids below 12 years old who aren't able to get vaccinated. They're not going to be able to share food items or toys. In general, let's see, did I cover everything? Sorry, I just want to make sure. In general, the kids are going to be encouraged, as they have been during the year, both at school and if they were in the early learning center, encouraged to stay in a specific pod with not a lot of mixing, along with hand washing and respiratory etiquette. Keep in mind that the kids will be outdoors even more than they had been before. So things like sunblock and hydration are going to be really important and will be encouraged by camp staff. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is that on Wednesday from 3 to 6 p.m., I believe, although those there can tell me if I'm wrong, there's going to be a free COVID vaccine clinic at the JCC for anybody who is unvaccinated and eligible. So I very much encourage all family members to get vaccinated. It will drastically reduce the potential of spread during the camp session. And with that, sort of briefly, I'm here to answer any questions that I can that might arise.
Does anybody have a health-related question for Dr. Deutsch? You can unmute yourself and ask. You could type it in the chat if you prefer, but feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question.
I know when they're swimming, they'll be inside. Are there any concerns with them not masking while they're swimming?
That's a great question. There's sort of limited best practice for indoor swim time, but I know that the JCC has worked really hard with multiple experts to talk about reducing the number of people in the pool area at a given time so that they can safely spread out and distance. And I think those are reasonable accommodations during swim time.
Thank you.
I also will say, I just know from discussions that in addition to state and local guidelines, the JCC keeps an eye on community rates. And if at any time community rates of COVID were going up, I think these things would be reconsidered. But at the time, with our current rates and the increased vaccination rates that we're experiencing, I think that these are all quite reasonable accommodations.
Okay, any other questions related to COVID safety or general health and safety for your campers? I am going to put into the chat in just a second here the link if anyone is interested in registering for the free vaccine clinic that's being held at the JCC this Wednesday, the 16th. I will put the URL so that you can learn more about that and register. And feel free to pass the link along to anyone who you might know in your family, in your community that would like to be able to get vaccinated this week. The first jab will be Wednesday, and then the second shot follows on July 5th, which is 21 days after the first dose. And it is the Pfizer vaccine that's being offered. Okay, well, if there isn't anything further for Dr. Deutsch, I'm going to thank her for joining us this evening and wish you a good night. Ashley, thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you very much.
So Camp Director Kyle, I'm going to turn things over to you. And if there are questions that folks have, as Kyle goes through different topics, you can unmute yourself to ask, or feel free, if you prefer, to put questions in the chat, and I will be glad to forward them to Kyle.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate it. For those that don't know me, my name is Kyle. I'm sure you got some emails from me, or you may have seen me at some point. I've been at the J for over a year now. In my other capacity, I was the assistant manager of health and wellness, and now I transitioned into the camp director role. And I've been a camp director at other locations as well. So I'm honestly just super excited to have campers back this summer. I was kind of quiet last summer, so this has just been awesome. And I'll let Tova introduce herself before we get into some other stuff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tova Granowitz. I went to the JCC as a kid to camp, and I worked there, and I worked here as a counselor in training or a leader in training, and then as a counselor for a few years, and was assistant camp director, was assistant unit head 2 years ago, and now I'm assistant camp director.
Yeah, and there's some other members of our management team that are running training as we speak right now, so that's what they're busy doing, and we were lucky enough to step away to just chat with all of you. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Sam and Deb for all their leadership and getting us to a place where we're able to have camp this summer. So thank you both for all of that. But now let's get into the fun stuff. So I'm happy to take any questions. I'm sure you've all gotten a lot of communication that have come through. I'd like to know what you want to know. I could sit here and talk for an hour if you want about different things that are happening at camp, but that might not really pertain to what you want to know. So I'll just go over some basic stuff, and then if anything comes up, please feel free to ask. If you want to raise your hand with the chat button, or throw it in the chat, or just pop on the screen. But just some subtle differences if you've been to our camp before, new things that are happening. Our camp hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You'll have the ability to drop off anywhere between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then you'll have the ability to pick up anywhere between 3:30 to 5 p.m. Our inclusion camp pretty much runs 9 to 3:30, and we want to be very consistent with our inclusion camp, considering we are an inclusion camp and that's what we should be doing. So that's kind of why it's an extra half hour at the end of the day, and we allow for that opportunity to be picked up then. We will have a car line similar to years past. I know a lot of you got an email on Friday that mentioned Remini is not fully set up, so I apologize. We're meeting with them tomorrow, where we should have everything set and get an invitation out to all of you either tomorrow or Wednesday, hopefully at the latest. Remini is an app where you can do your daily screening. We will need all the campers to do a daily questionnaire, given that campers most of them cannot be vaccinated yet, so they will need to fill that out for us. And that's how we can have them here at camp. Similarly, with the car line, we will ask that you stay in your car for the summer and not come out of your car to pick up your camper at camp, just to make it a little safer COVID-wise as we go through things. And I know some of you, if you're in the ELC, have been doing a car line for a while now, so you're used to it. And hopefully we run ours just as smooth as the ELC did theirs. So any questions about pickup and drop off while we're here?
I have a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
I have one camper in the ELC and one camper in the older group. The ELC is having us walk the younger kids directly in the building. So I'm not sure, do I walk one in and do one in the car line, or I just want to make sure I do the right thing.
Sure, that's a good question. We're working through that. I'm working with Jen about what the appropriate measure is to take. So I would definitely will get back to you with an answer on that. We want to make sure we do what's best for the campers and for all of you and make it easier on yourselves. That's the main goal. Is whatever we can do to make your lives a little easier. We know you all have got a ton going on, especially if you have multiple kids. So we want to make sure we do that for you. So the short answer is we will get back to you with an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about pickup and drop off before I move on to the next topic?
Kyle, a couple of questions that came into the chat regarding pickup and drop off.
Sure.
One is, are masks required in the car line? And the other is from a family who's new to camp and they just want to know where the drop off is. If you could maybe give a kind of a visual description.
Sure. I'll start with the visual description. It'll probably be hard to miss. There'll probably be a long line of cars, but basically when you pull into our entrance, you pull in, we'll have signage. We love signage around here these days. So you just pull in and kind of hit straight, and then we'll point you in some loop directions towards where our picnic grove is and / the tennis courts. If you've ever been to our campus, or if you have some time to stop by before camp starts on Monday, you'll be able to see where the picnic grove and the tennis courts are. But I promise you, you will not be able to miss it with all the cars that will be dropping off. In terms of the masks, I would say at this point, I would ask that you do, just to be a little more conscious of what we have going on. It's only, it shouldn't be that long. So if you don't mind, even though you may be vaccinated, I may be vaccinated, not sure about the person that's at your car doing car line with you. So I would just say, just to be safer, mask up for 30 seconds to a minute, and then you're free to go.
And Kyle, another question. If a camper is in a car seat, who should plan to buckle and unbuckle them? Are we going to be following the protocol that ELC is doing? Or, in other words, will the counselors be able to help with unbuckling and helping a camper out of the car seat?
Another excellent question. Yeah, we can help with that depending on how intricate your car seat is. I know nowadays they make crazy car seats that are very intricate. But otherwise, I wouldn't mind if you came out of your car to help with that if need be. It's really the only reason we're asking not to get out of the car and come to like Picnic Grove is just because of how many different kids that will be in that general area. But if it's just you at your car, yeah, feel free to get out of your car and help with the car seat if you like. But we can also do the same.
Great, thank you. So a couple of other questions have come in, but I'll hold on those until you touch on those areas of the of your presentation, and I'll make sure that those questions get put out to you. Okay.
Sure. I know another big topic is swimming, so let's talk about that for a little while. So this year, there's been a lot of discussion, and I know it was brought up when Ashley was here, of what to do with swimming, how to do it safely. So in order to accommodate everyone safely and efficiently, we are swimming 3 times a week for every group that is coming to camp. Swimming will only be once a day. It'll be a little different for those in the past, but it will be for a 50-minute time period. In that 50-minute time period, you'll get 25, maybe 30 minutes of a lesson, and then 25 or 20 minutes of free swim. And that's each time they swim, so 3 times a week. Cindy Gladstone is our aquatics coordinator. She is excellent. She had been teaching in the ELC for years, and she will be running the swimming program for camp. In the days that there is no swimming, we're going to try to make sure we do water play outside, where we can get sprinklers going or slip and slides, and we've got some cool stuff we're working on. To have some fun with that, just to make sure that one, if it's hot out, kids are cooling down with some extra water stuff, but also to kind of get that fix that they may be missing from those other 2 days of swimming. So I would suggest and recommend always packing a bathing suit and a towel, just to be on the safe side. That way it's always accessible. I would always suggest also packing an extra pair of clothes, especially for the younger ones. You just never know. But at least under 8, definitely. Over 8, I would do the same anyway, just so they have an extra pair of clothes in case they get dirty or whatever and they want to change them. Or they decide last minute they want to play water games, then they can have an extra pair of clothes. I'm sure, Deb, were there some questions about swimming in the chat?
Yeah, so let me put 2 questions out to you that came in. One was, if families have children who might be afraid of the water, what measures are you putting in place to help kids feel more comfortable at swimming time? Number 1. And then the second question is, when will you be sharing what days of the week a particular camp group is going to be having swim?
Sure. So to answer the first question, Cindy has been a swim instructor, private swim lesson instructor for just as long as she's been at the J. and she's really good about making kids feel comfortable. Same with all the lifeguards / swim instructors I've had for the summer. But the goal for every kid is to get them wanting to be in the water and wanting to have fun in the water and making them feel comfortable. Obviously, when we teach swim lessons, we teach them, how to swim, but a lot of it is teaching pool safety, teaching what it's like to be in the pool and getting to feel comfortable being around water. Obviously there's some exceptions, and no matter how hard you try, some people just don't like the water, and that's okay. But our goal is to try and make it a positive experience in any way we can to encourage whoever it may be to get in the water. If you stay with us for 9 weeks, maybe they don't get in the water weeks 1 through 8, but maybe by week 9 they'll have some fun and decide to take a chance. But otherwise, we'll be keeping an eye on that. And then the schedule, that is a really good question. I'm working on that. We're just trying to make sure it's consistent before we send anything out. With so many things, as you know, the past year and a half, things change frequently. So we want to make sure that everything's finalized before we send anything out. So obviously camp's Monday, so it'll be before that. Hopefully Friday in our weekly email.
Thank you, Kyle. And another question for the younger swimmers, like say for the 5-year-olds, what would free swim look like? Is everybody all in the pool at the same time? Maybe you can just speak to, the ratios and group sizes on the pool deck, et cetera.
Yes, of course. So for our group sizes, anyone that's under the age of 7, we have groups of 10, and then anyone older than that, we have groups of 14. So they're not very big groups, and then we only put 3 groups in the pool at a time, and the pool is split into 3 quadrants. Same with the pool, it has to be split in pods. So for the younger ones, there will be no more than 10 kids, and then a counselor will be in the pool with them, and then we'll have at least 2 or 3 lifeguards in the pool with them. Even during free swim, they'll be in the pool watching, and then the others on the pool deck, and the other counselor that will be with them on the pool deck as well. And it's the pool, if you've been in our pool, is pretty large. So we have quite a bit of space to break it up into 3 quadrants to safely do free swim with tons of space, tons of extra room to float around and splash around and have some fun.
Okay. Kyle, just a follow-up question on the group sizes. Can you, a question came in about the counselor to camper ratios for the younger groups, particularly for swim time. Can you just clarify that?
I'm sorry, Debbie, your sound cut out there halfway through. I don't know if that happened to anyone else.
Sure, I'll repeat the question. So the question was, if you can clarify the counselor to camper ratios for the younger groups for swimming?
Yes. So regardless of swimming or not swimming, the counselor to camper ratio is 1 to 5 for anyone under the age of 7. So there will always be 2 counselors with a group of 10. And then, so we have the 2 counselors that are in the pool with them. And then depending on the time of day, there will be 5 to 7 lifeguards plus Cindy in the pool area with them. So in the pool, it's actually 1 to 25 with a lifeguard, regardless of the age. So we are well within our ratios, and we have extra staff supporting in the pool. My background, well, not my full background, but when I was the assistant manager of health and wellness, I oversaw the pool and oversaw the lifeguards. So the pool is one place that I pay extra close attention to. It's the most dangerous place we have on this campus, camp or not camp. And so I make sure I take every precaution when we're talking about the pool. And I'm not just saying that, I hope you feel my words when I talk about it.
Swimming in the pool is definitely the popular topic here. A couple of follow-ups, Kyle. If a camper has a one-to-one that's helping them as part of the inclusion program, will that person, will that one-to-one or the 2-to-1 be in the pool with them? How is that going to work?
Yes, they are in the pool with them. I'll speak for Sarah because I know she's talked about this. They are always with them all the time. So that means in the pool, not in the pool. They are with them at all times. So that counselor will be in the pool with them.
Great. And just a follow up on swimming lessons. So if someone's coming to camp and they cannot swim, how are you going to approach that? How are you going to determine people's swim levels and if they can't swim at all, how do you manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a swim test every Monday, where it's a kind of a basic test just to see which levels everyone falls into, and that's kind of Cindy's role. Is she'll place people in the levels she thinks they need to be in, and then she'll have the instructors kind of divvy them up and help them and kind of meet them where they are. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of campers that might not know how to swim, and so we'll start with the basics. And a lot of times when people don't know how to swim, you got to start with the pool safety stuff. So we'll talk there, and then Cindy will expedite the process and help with learning how to swim. Of course, doing it in a safe manner.
Okay. And just picking up on that, Kyle, if somebody is not swimming well yet, but they're making progress through lessons and such, what's the pool policy around wearing inflatables? Yes, no, sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely encourage it based on the swim level. That's again, I'll just go back to my lifeguards and Cindy's role. That's what they're really there for, is to test the swimmers and see what levels they need to be at, and then what adaptive devices they might need in the pool, whether that be a bubble or some inflatables, life jacket, etc. And that's what the swim test stands for. And then, of course, as the swim lessons go on, if they improve, the swim instructors can see that, and they'll say, all right, you don't need this anymore in this section of the pool, and let's move to the next section. But I promise you, they won't do that until they feel that child is absolutely comfortable in that situation.
Okay. And do families need to bring their own inflatables or equipment, or will you be supplying all of that?
We have that. I mean, if they feel more comfortable with their stuff, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. The only thing I'll say is kids lose a lot of things. So it just really depends on how comfortable you feel with your child carrying some things around, and what their ability might be to hold on to it for the entirety of a day. But we have tons of stuff here. And that's safe stuff to use, especially because it's going in the pool where there's the chlorine. So it has the extra chemicals in it to kill any germs that may be on it, along with us cleaning it afterwards.
Okay. And then just a clarifying question, Kyle, that came
Sure.
in. So, we've at camp have been talking about pods and the idea of, campers staying in their pods. But somebody asked the question, if they're going to be moving, let's say on a subsequent Monday, moving to a new swim level, wouldn't that change the pod that they're in? So maybe you can just speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So their swim levels will still be, like, the swim lessons will still be in their pods. So we have enough staff where we can break it down in the pods and the way it's broken up, that in the pool, they won't have to mix pods at any point. And so it's a little different with staff that's with like specialty people, aka the lifeguards or the swim instructors. They're really the only ones that can be flexible in their pods. But yeah, otherwise in the pool, they will still be with that 10 group of kids that they're with all day. And so swim lesson might be broken down to 4 kids and then 6 kids, and then one might move up to the group that has 4 and now they have 5, but it's still that same set of 10. And it was very confusing. There's a lot of stuff with pods. I apologize, but it all makes sense.
Okay, I think we've covered the pool questions.
Awesome.
For now, I'll keep tabs on the chat here for you.
Awesome. So just a couple of things that we want to talk about and just remind people of. We highly encourage packing some snacks for camp. Just given that we'll be outside a lot more, kids will tend to be hungrier, but also they just love snacks. And then incredibly important to hydrate. So we have plenty of refillable water bottle stations at the J that we can use to fill up water bottles. And obviously the counselors will take them in at any time to help fill up water bottles and make sure they're staying hydrated. It's a huge piece of camp. I'm trying to be better about it myself this summer. Usually every summer I'm horrible at hydrating myself. So that's my goal. So I'll make sure it's all for campers' goals. And then we encourage a kosher style lunch and snacks as well here at camp. And that stuff came out in the parent manual as well. And there'll be some follow-up information that will come through on Friday as well to hopefully clarify some questions that may have come up in the meantime. Yes.
So basically everybody will bring their own lunch.
Yes.
They will
Sorry.
bring multiple snacks to be able to have throughout the camp day. A good water bottle that can be refilled.
Yep.
And we will be able to keep their lunches cold, correct?
Yes, that was the one thing I knew I was forgetting to say something. Lunches will be able to be refrigerated. And yes, bring your own lunch. We will not be allowing sharing of food. Typically, I don't like to do that anyway, but especially with COVID, can't really share food anyway. So just keep that in mind as well. Obviously, siblings, that's a different story, but non-siblings cannot do that.
I had a question on the heat, if that's okay. Just because
Sure.
we had that day that was like 98 degrees. And we had my son outside, he was playing, but he got almost overheated within an hour. How are you keeping track or managing that with the additional outdoor time?
Sure, that's a great question. I mean, we're constantly monitoring the temperature and what it is outside. The great addition, I think the great thing we could have done is that campers don't have to wear masks outside if they don't want to, which will help. But at the same token, that will be the day that we play water games all day long, that we'll do less intense stuff, that we'll be keeping it low key, that we have tons of shade available for the campers, and just making sure that they're staying hydrated, they're staying safe, taking tons of breaks, and just making sure they're able to kind of regulate themselves. I teach the after school classes here for sports sometimes. So on those days, I saw how hot it was outside for those little guys. So I totally get where you're coming from.
Okay. And, I mean, obviously I'll tell my children to self-advocate, but they are really young. So will the campers also be trained to kind of look for those in the case that a child might not know their limit?
Yes, absolutely. Again, like I had one of my camps, I was the first aid director. So one of my priorities is to not have any first aid problems. We have a great first aid director hired this summer, but hopefully we don't really have to use her in any sense in terms of heat stuff. But yes, the counselors will go through some heat training to know what it looks like and to know what campers look like. And they go through our training. We talk about how the campers, depending on their age, might not know their limits or might not know kind of where their body needs to stop. They might just be having so much fun that they don't want to stop, but we will strongly encourage that to happen.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a follow-up. So my 5-year-old was one of the ones who was doing soccer recently, and within like half hour, 45 minutes, she just gets super overheated with drinking like a full water bottle. So when you're talking about those days that are like 98 degrees or like in August, when it's super hot, and you're talking about water games all day, is that going to be still like in their pod? I mean, do you have like a slip and slide for every pod, or is that going to be like all camp is using the same slip and slide, so then everybody's waiting in line? Like how kind of are you managing that with the different age groups? And then, I mean, how are you going to, for those kids that don't know their limits with how hot they get, because mine is absolutely one of them, how are you going to be encouraging them to drink more?
Sure. To answer your first part of the question, jump in if I forget any part of your question. We do have plenty of slip and slides. We had some nice ones donated from a company, which is pretty cool. So we have tons of slip and slides, some inflatable stuff, other water games that they will still be in pods, but they'll rotate through everything and they'll have tons of opportunities to do that and tons of opportunities to use different equipment. And then in the shade, in the woods kind of area, make sure they're taking breaks there, eat their lunch in the shade, all that stuff. And then of course, that's the day we want to make sure that they are going swimming. So I strongly encourage, as long as your camper is okay with going in the water, not too afraid of the water, I'm strongly encouraging that to go in the pool on days that it's hot. Those are the most important days in my mind to go swimming, just to give them that extra break inside a little bit of a regulated area. And then the biggest thing is just, sorry, I think I know what your second question is, but I forgot. Do you mind repeating it?
That's okay. Just for that age group, for like the younger, like the 5-year-olds, how are they going to have their water bottles with them at all time? Like, how are they going to be encouraging them? Because like she's not going to drink all the time unless she's like prompted. She'll just burn herself right out.
Yes, of course. Thank you for repeating that, by the way. Yes, there will definitely be tons of counselors just reminding them, hey, let's stop right now. Let's take a drink of water. Let's make sure we drink, and making sure they actually see the camper drink. That's a big thing with me, is making sure they actually see what the campers say they're going to do. And I'll speak for Tova too. Same with her. And I'm a huge fan of prizes, so we'll always make sure there's something involved there. But I coach high schoolers, and I have to remind them constantly to drink water. So I know it's even more so with the 4 to 5 to 6-year-olds in that realm.
Okay, thank you.
No, thanks for your questions.
Kyle, while we're on the topic of food and drink, just a couple of questions that came in. In the ELC, lunches get transferred so that they can be heated up. I'm assuming that basically what gets packed is going to be refrigerated and then brought out at lunchtime. You don't have the ability to warm things up. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. At camp, we don't have a classroom that the ELC is lucky enough to have. So what you pack in the lunch, hopefully it doesn't need to be heated up. Otherwise, they'll be eating it cold. So that's really a big difference between us and the ELC. Is we just put the lunches in the fridge, and then they're able to be eaten at lunchtime. Yes.
Okay. And then there was a question related to the kosher style, which I'm happy to address, which was just the question came in around, is there going to be a specific, like a dairy day and a meat day? But I think the key is whatever you're packing that day should just be one thing, meaning not to mix dairy products with meat products in what you send that day. So like if it's cold pizza, that's fine, cheese pizza. But like a slice of pizza shouldn't be sent with a half of a roast beef sandwich. So the idea is just to be able to either send a meal with dairy or a meal that does have some kind of meat in it. And hopefully that's clear. And that is talked about in the parent manual as well. So as Kyle said, hopefully everybody will have a chance to look at that this week.
Yeah, Deb, you hit it nail on the head. Also, if you're on this call and you didn't, I assume you probably heard about it through the email we sent, but if you didn't get our information, please feel free to reach out. And happy to address anything. Or if you don't have a question you want to ask for the whole group, that's fine too. Feel free to reach out, and happy to answer your questions separately.
I had one other quick question. I might have misread. I thought that it said we could get like our parking stickers on Camp Doc, but I couldn't find it there.
Yes,
Like
that
the
is,
details.
that is a great question. We are also working on that. The parking situation is kind of a tricky one this summer, so I apologize in advance for all the confusion there. There's been a lot of twists and turns, making a lot of left and right turns and not going NASCAR style here, but we'll get that figured out. We'll get that settled. We'll get that all to you ASAP. And tomorrow, after we chat with Remini, things should make a little more sense, and we should get that out to you either later tomorrow or early on Wednesday. And like I said, again, I'm sorry for the confusion. It's been a little chaotic.
That's okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Kyle, there's another question that came in around food and snacks. And this is actually an excellent question. Should the snacks be things that don't have to go into the fridge? In other words, if those things are just going to stay in a camper's backpack to be accessible in the morning or anytime in the afternoon, would you advise those things being things that don't have to be refrigerated?
Yes, I would advise that. If you put it in the lunchbox, we'll typically ask the campers before we take the lunchbox and put them in the fridge to take out a snack or two just to keep in their backpack so that they have it for snack time. So I would advise that it is something that doesn't need to be refrigerated. Also, to go along with food, we are not a nut-free facility, so you can pack nuts if you choose to. You don't have to look through all your food. If your camper has a nut allergy, they'll be in a separate area where they'll be eating with all people that do not have nuts in their lunch. And all that information, as long as you finished all your health profile stuff on CampDoc, which is my shameless plug that if you haven't, please finish it. Then we have that information and we know that going forward.
And Kyle, could you just give a recommendation? I mean, obviously, depending on the age of the camper, it might be different, but how many snacks would you recommend that families pack each morning?
Yeah, I would say at least 2. With the younger ones, it's a little easier to regulate because they kind of know to wait to when it's snack time. But if you have an older camper, they can pack as many snacks as they want because they'll probably just eat them whenever they want. And we're okay with that. They know their bodies. But I'd say at least 2. That way they can have 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. And then along with whatever you pack them for lunch.
Great. Okay. All right. I have some questions coming in on some other topics around, like, I don't know if you were going to talk about the restrooms and what that policy, kind of how that's going to be. I'll just throw this question out and maybe you can talk to that next. Just in terms of, are there going to be bathroom breaks scheduled? How will that be managed? Just in terms of, especially for some kids who, maybe they're just having so much fun, they forget, and then all of a sudden they really have to go. So how's all that going to be managed?
Absolutely. No, we know that all too well in the camping industry. Happens quite frequently. There'll definitely be scheduled bathroom breaks, especially for the younger ones. Oftentimes, if a kid tells us they have to go to the bathroom, we'll ask anyone else have to go to the bathroom, double check kind of let's make sure we go to the bathroom before we leave this area. Let's make sure while we're here, we go to the bathroom. So again, like I said, I don't want any accidents this summer either. I understand they happen, but if they're avoidable, that's even better for us. Typically lunchtime is a good time, and then there'll be other scheduled bathroom breaks. And then of course, usually changing for swimming, either changing before or after is a good time to go to the bathroom as well. That way we don't have to shut the pool down for any reason, and that's also a plus. So.
And this also goes for the water question as well. We have set aside transition periods, which allow campers to have time to go to the bathroom, drink some water in between each of their 25-minute block periods, which kind of allows everybody to readjust, make sure that their bodies are all set for the next activity.
All right, great. Kyle, this question actually came in a little while ago, so I just want to make sure that the questioner knows I did not forget about it. In terms of an opportunity for parents to be able to meet the counselors, is there any kind of opportunity the first week of camp? How, what might be possible?
Sure. So there will at least be a counselor that's there in the morning when you're doing drop off for car line, and that person can come up to the car and greet you there in the camper there. And if it's like, if you can ask the camper, or not the camper, the counselor that comes up to your car and say, hey, this is who so-and-so, they're this age, not sure who their counselor might be. And the counselors know to go find whoever that might be, just so they can introduce them. Especially the first week, especially if they're new to camp, the goal is to make sure they meet their counselor. That way we can get them comfortable right away with who one of their counselors might be, and they feel good about starting camp off and leaving whoever it is they might be leaving. In a normal year, we'd have a open house type thing, and we'd be able to meet everybody. So hopefully next year you love camp so much, and then come back and we have an awesome open house night or multiple open house nights, and we get to have some fun.
So all roads keep leading to pool questions. So let me just circle back on a couple of things from some of our participants here. This is actually a great question. We were talking about this earlier in the week. Should they be sending their campers in bathing suits? And if yes, then will somebody be able to help them if needed for bathroom breaks in terms of, being able to wiggle out of a bathing suit and manage?
Yeah, is an excellent question. Once we send out the swimming schedules, I would say if it seems that your group is swimming 9:30 or 10:30, then yes, send them in a bathing suit. If they're swimming in the afternoon, I do not recommend it. It's mostly the older campers that will be swimming in the afternoon, and they can change a little easier and a little faster. but the younger kids, it does save some time if they come in a bathing suit. And so this is actually a great point to bring up. We can help. We try not to as much as possible. We're under a little bit different licensing guidelines as opposed to the ELC. So if your kid has been in a preschool, whether it's here or somewhere else, we try to stay as hands off as possible. But we obviously understand some kids need help. They're young. They don't know what they're doing. So we can help with that as well. Same with the bathroom or changing.
Okay, I think I'm caught up in the chat. So if there were other topics you wanted to touch on, Kyle, it's all yours.
Just a couple quick things, and then feel free to ask any more of your questions. I want to be mindful of your time. I know some of you might have young kids that might be headed off to bed shortly, but don't worry, we still got at least an hour left of training here. So just to, like I mentioned, shameless plugs. If you haven't gone on Camp Doc and filled out your health profile, if you don't mind doing that for us. And if you have any questions, like I said, reach out, please. Our camp calendar is uploaded, should be on the website, springfieldjcc.org. Check that out. Some awesome days coming up. Depending on the age of campers, if you have friends in the community, we do have some spots for certain camps available. Have them reach out to me in the later weeks specifically. Just depends on the age and the camp. So I would recommend them reaching out. But again, these are just shameless plugs that I wanted to throw in there while I had the time. Other than that, I would love to hear any other questions that you all might have.
I had a follow-up. You mentioned with meeting the camp counselors
Sure.
in Carline. I mean, we're definitely going to be doing that. Again, we have a young one. So, I mean, how are you gonna, let's just pretend everybody wants to meet the camp counselor every day the first week. How are you gonna keep Carline moving, and how really is that going to work?
That's a good question. So Carline, different than the ELC, I guess I should have specified this earlier. The ELC kind of has a one Carline thing. We have like 5 cones. So hopefully, I mean, maybe this is just in my brain, but not all 5 cars at the same time will need to meet the counselor, and we can kind of extend it if we need to and move it along a little quicker. But we're a little bit luxurious where we have 5 open areas that cars can go to move things along. But I know the ELC only had 1 spot, so it went a little slower in that sense. And hopefully not everybody's dropping their campers off at the exact same time, and things can move quickly for us. When we send out all the Remini stuff, if you fill out Remini stuff, and your camper's been here years and you don't need them to meet the counselor, that'll help move the car line along quicker too.
So yeah, so Kyle just mentioned Remini. The Remini invitation, Kyle, has that been sent?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so that'll go out this week for those of you who asked about that. And yeah, I mean, if any of you were doing kind of pick up groceries during COVID and you would go into the grocery store parking lot, there would sometimes be like 4 or 6 slots that you could pull into. And that's going to be the similar kind of approach that we're going to have over by the picnic grove. So it won't just be a single file line. Once you get directed into the parking lot, there will be 5 different spots to actually pull up and discharge your camper. So to Kyle's point, I think we'll have a lot more flexibility, and especially during the first week when first time campers and parents want to be able to check in with a counselor. I agree. I think we're going to be able to accommodate that pretty easily. If a child is already using Remini for the preschool, for the ELC, will it update for camp, or is a new app required, Kyle?
It should update for camp. I was speaking with Jen last week about this. We should be able to just add in camp, and you'll be able to see it the same way you see ELC stuff. And for those that know Seth, he has a daughter in the ELC, and he was kind of playing around with it. And we're just trying to make it work so it's easy for everybody that might have a child in the ELC this summer and out at outdoor camp, or that just had a child on ELC and is coming to camp, that you don't have to do anything other than we just add the kid in and you fill out 2 forms instead of 1.
Okay. Just a couple of other questions that came in, Kyle. I just want to make sure that you can respond to. So in terms of the swim schedule, is that once it's set, is that something that would be issued weekly to families or daily? Just in terms of them being able to know what are their swim days?
Sure. The swim schedule will stay the same through 9 weeks of camp unless something crazy happens. So you might get it multiple times throughout the week, just when we send it out. If new campers join, we might just add you to the list. It'll be hard for us to know who's new each week, but otherwise you'll get it for the week ahead of time. But like I said, unless something crazy happens, then, which knock on wood, I hope it doesn't, it'll stay the same for all 9 weeks.
Okay, great. And then a question came in about the July 4th weekend, because the federal holiday is celebrated on Monday. And so you want to just clarify what that week's going to look like?
Yes, so that's just a 4-day week for us, the 6th through the 9th. 6th through the 9th. And it'll be primarily the same as it's been for any other week of camp, just 4 days instead of 5. So I believe I'll have to double check, but I'm not sure what the swimming looks like. I think just if you normally swim on Monday, you wouldn't be swimming on Monday that week.
Okay. Let's see. For anybody who's doing a specialty camp, like one of the arts camps or music, are the drop-offs and pickups going to be at the same spot? Will everybody still come into the same place?
Great question. Yes, they're in the same spot. They will also be swimming as well.
Excellent. Let's see. Another ELC question. So if there's a group of younger campers who are coming from the ELC, let's say, 4 or 5-year-olds, will there be any effort made to keep them together in terms of the groupings?
Good question. So that's kind of a toss-up for me. We obviously want to make the campers feel comfortable and want to make them have a good transition from the ELC to camp. But camp is also a time and a place where you can make new friends and try new things. So it'll kind of be, and it also depends on which staff I have, which campers we have for that week, and kind of the outside influence. But otherwise, we'll try to accommodate as best we can. But it just depends on what we have going on. And I'm in contact with Donna down at the ELC, and she's given me, and Jen, of course, and they've given me some of their recommendations. So we're constantly talking.
Okay. I just want to pick up on Kyle's shameless plug about making sure that everybody get their health profiles filled out. And so that's the section of Camp Doc where you're including lots of information about your camper's health and uploading immunization records and all of that kind of good stuff. Just to be super, super clear, legally, we cannot accept your camper until all of that is filled out and you see 100% on your health profile. So please, please make sure that you check Camp Doc, that you filled it out fully. And obviously, if you have any questions, call the camp office, call Kyle or Mary, who's the camp registrar at the JCC, and we'll be glad to help you. And similarly, all camp, unless you're on a prior payment plan arrangement that you set up with the finance office, camp must be paid in full by June 21st. That was in all the written materials. It was what you agreed to in Camp Doc. So please, please also, we've been trying to do some follow-up calls to families, and we will be doing some reminders this week, but it's really important that you just get any outstanding balances cleared. The deadline is Monday, the 21st. And if your balance is not paid and you are planning to come to camp on Monday morning, the 21st, you will have to go into the JCC office first before you drop off your camper. So I encourage all of you to just go online, clear out your balance. Again, if you have any issues or need any assistance with a credit card payment, feel free to call the camp office and we will absolutely help you and make it as easy as possible as we can. So thank you so much for your cooperation on that. Kyle, over to you.
Thank you. No, does anybody have any final questions? I know we're approaching an hour here, so I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. So I'll let, if anyone has any questions, speak now. I won't say forever hold your peace because you can email me the questions. So
I actually have one more. Sorry.
no worries.
What's the plan on rainy days?
Good question.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot that. So we will be inside on rainy days. That is an excellent question. They will still be in their pods, separate in a variety of locations throughout the JCC. There's some different spaces in the J that aren't being used due to COVID, so it frees up some space for us. Hopefully, like knock on wood, we don't have that many rainy days. I said this morning in our leadership staff meeting that I'm glad today wasn't the first day of camp. And they claim that that means that Monday will rain, but I don't believe them. Anyway, so we have a variety of spaces, and then they'll kind of rotate through those spaces if they're inside for a longer period that day. And then don't ask me how to explain it, but if it thunders and lightnings, the pool gets closed for a half hour. So just forewarn your campers, because I know some campers get very disappointed when they can't go swimming. If it is thunder and lightning, they might miss some of their swim time or all their swim time, because every time it thunders or lightning, it resets every half hour. And it's just the way the pool is built, even though we're an indoor pool. So otherwise, plenty of space inside for rainy day activities.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, last call. Any other questions? All right, well, I appreciate you all being on the call tonight. Thank you for your questions. They were awesome. And I'm glad I got to talk to many of you. And I hope to get to see you all soon. I'm a pretty easy guy to find. Just look for the guy with the beard hanging out of the mask and you're likely to find me. So yeah, just thank you. And I'm super excited for camp. And I hope all your campers are too. The staff has been super jazzed up all week during training last week and this week, and just can't wait to have your campers here next week and give them an awesome experience that they've been waiting 2 years for. So thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Good night, everybody.